steps. And Owen! Did he get it down?
Held up.
There's no conclusive footage of a try being scored.
So they've played their best now, boys. We'll come over the top.
The Reds edging closer. Wide they go. Here's Cooper and Chris F. Sortia. Gives it down to Harris, and he's going to try the short kick over the top, and Harris regathers, gives it down, and it's in, picked up by Shipley, and over it goes down to F. Sortia, throws it back on the inside. What a try, Reds! Great backup play by Dom Shipley. And now they give it to Cooper, and he's going to spin around and give it out to Adam Wallace-Harrison. Brilliant play, Quade Cooper. Scrambling defence, Reds, and they hold them out. Advantage being played, and Curtly Beale, plenty of room. He steps and he dives over. So, the Rebels are not done yet. Here's Genny, a flat pass, and then it's out to Nick Frisbee. So that is full time, and it is a 32-17 victory for the Queensland Reds.
You know, it's a difficult place to come here and play. Plenty of teams have fallen over here. We figure if we keep winning, we'll give ourselves a chance somehow, but we've done what we can do today.
The St George Queensland Reds returned home to Ballymore after a tough victory away. It was one of 18 games in the regular season, and there was little time to reflect and rest. As a new week begins, their next challenge is less than 5 short days away. The Queensland Reds is an organisation known for its considerable attention to detail. As they build towards the next game, each day is planned and organised in order to get the best out of each player and the collective group.
Monday mornings, hectic time. Greg Smith and myself attend early, and those players that require us will be in early as well. We'll tidy up whatever we can and arrange radiology and specialist appointments as required.
An old knee that's managing pretty well.
These guys will carry a lot of accumulated damage over a career.
Go across this way. Not too good. When I pull it down, the ligaments that are supposed to be there to hold it together aren't holding it together. So I'd call this a grade 2 AC.
So it's not that bad?
Well, it's still going to take a number of weeks, Chris.
Really?
Really? We'll get some pictures taken today. Ah! Yeah, and you're ready to play footy, is that right?
Obviously you have to monitor them fairly closely. We know how each of these guys presents. Some of them get very quiet when they're hurt, and they do their best to make sure they don't let you know, because they're all desperate to be out there and playing each week in and out.
You had a stinger on the weekend?
Oh yeah, just burnt the whole way down, but I think it actually put it back into place. Tell you the honest truth.
Turn your head as far as you can to the left. You want to stop getting cauliflower ears, you don't play rugby. If you do, you get it drained, and maybe, you might save it. Look at that, flat ear.
Holy crap.
More handsome than ever.
The players will go to Smithy very often for counselling, in a sense, being the father figure of the group. And I think that only comes with having been in the job for some time.
What did you hear?
I didn't really hear anything.
So you sort of pivoted to take the tackle. So you have a look here, mate. It's got a lot of movement there. This one's got none. Which means there's the ligament that's supposed to be holding it there. It's not there. look at MR and we'll go from there. But it's not good news, tell. Poor bugger. Gilly, hamstring, MRI, go from there. Chances of playing? Not good. Chris
The list of injuries and illnesses is discussed with the coaching staff in a meeting that shapes the rest of the week, and ultimately selection for next week's game.
The end result is a very polished medical presentation to coaching staff to give them the best opportunities, both to understand where we're going with chronically injured players and also to recently injured players with a view to planning their return to sport. I'm more optimistic now than I was 2 hours ago.
And actually, at this point, unless we get some positive news as we go on. Yeah. But I'd like to see him tackling people and stuff like that, you know, confidently on that shoulder.
There were plenty of injury concerns for the coaching staff to contemplate, but the weekend's game also provides a huge amount of other information that needs to be processed.
Depending on the result from the weekend, it will very much reflect the mood of the coaching team and the group. Can be quite painful watching the video at times, but nevertheless we do need to review the game.
There's probably a never-ending supply of statistics and video angles that we can source for the coaches and players, but it's actually identifying what's going to make a difference in the relatively short preparation time that we've got. A fair amount of emphasis probably on Ewan's part is placed on areas like the kick chase, catching high balls under pressure, the work that the players do to get off the ground after they've made a tackle, all those kind of hidden areas that don't necessarily get recognised by the media but might give the coaches a really good understanding of how our players are working and what kind of form they're in. Those stats and video footage are then made available to the coaches to do their reviews the day after a game, and all being well, everything's ready to be presented to the players first thing on Monday morning when they return for training.
Ewan looks at globally our game plan, and then Jim will really look at like the attack part of the game. I'll look at the defence part of the game. We'll first of all have a look at the individuals. Then we'll have a look at the team environment in terms of how we decide to go into the game, the pressure points we want to exert on the opposition. Did we do that? How were we off set piece? How were we off kick chase? All those type of areas.
There are some who find that the presentations in the team meeting is sufficient for them to prepare, and there are other players who go that little bit further. They'll either ask for extra footage on their opposition man or on the opposition's attack or defence, and they'll take that home to study with them or sit in the computer room here at Ballymore and spend some extra time going over that.
Tuesdays begin with a gym session for the players, watched closely by head performance coach Damien Marsh.
The knowledge and attitude that he's taken into his strength and conditioning has made him today one of the most intelligent, thorough and realistic and professional strength and conditioning coaches there are in rugby in Australia.
On the Tuesdays I'll have a strength session, and that's probably our main team session for that day and probably our biggest training day of the week. We'll be able to push that up very easily over the next couple of weeks. So it's a matter of taking the strain to at the start and just driving through chest, glutes. The strength and conditioning team here have a very good relationship with the coaching team. So right from the pre-season, when we're trying to work out what a player needs for the following season, we'll sit down and work out if they need to have a more strength and conditioning bias or a more skill bias towards their program. You need a collaboration of all the coaches to achieve that.
He's extremely professional in his approach. He tailors programs to suit individual players.
In season, the training might not be as intense, but the focus is more on the recovery and getting guys up each week and game to game.
You can't afford to drop off during the year as much as you saw from the previous game.
Sometimes you rock up real flat, your energy levels are down, but it all comes down to recovery. It's the most important thing.
Even with a focus on recovery, the demands of modern-day Super Rugby means there are inevitably injuries. Team rehab is a responsibility of Ollie Richardson.
So there's kind of really 3 stages to the injury: the acute phase, predominantly with the doctor, the physio and the surgeons if surgery is needed; the rehab phase where they transition into my group; and then the end phase is the transition phase out of rehab, reintroducing into the main rugby program.
So from next week we'll go back to the A skipping,
we'll just turn the dial a bit and see what you can cope with. Right, so if you finish off here, I want to take Dawes out and run.
3 days before the first trial match, just landed awkwardly from a line out and tore my ACL. While it's a serious injury, it's a pretty common injury, and there's been a few at the Reds. Guys like Quaid and Peter Hines have been, really good in talking me through what's required.
Look at him. When they're in long-term rehab, it can be quite challenging to keep them in the right frame of mind. We try and give them as many goals as we can, whether that be physical goals or mental goals or holiday goals. Better already than last time.
A lot of one-on-one time with Ollie. He comes from a fighting background, so you don't tell him what to do, he definitely tells you what to do.
If you're down, he'll spark you up, and his attitude when you're at training really is a motivator. You never want to be in rehab, and especially with a long-term injury, keeping positive's a massive part of it.
Let's go, Dawes, dig it in, let's go.
The support's there, it's just up to you to use all the knowledge and all the technical know-how that they've got and absorb it, and then at the end of the day it comes down to time and hard work.
And done. Easy.
In the morning it's busy time, we got the unit meetings, forwards and backs, both attack and defence, so we'll be going through what we're going to be doing from an attack perspective as far as the backs go, and then as a team. And then the same will happen with defence.
It's very much a two-way street, and guys offer up ideas and say where they think weaknesses might be and where our strengths might be.
We say how we think things should work. If we think something's going to help, that's when you raise it, and that's your time to say something.
We'll also work with the forwards in regards to what type of line-out shapes they're bringing into the game and how we're going to defend them, and also what set-piece moves from scrums and line-outs the opposition's going to run.
In the afternoon, we put into practice what we've done the previous day, so anything new. We reinforce that learning on the Tuesday in more match-like intensity, contact on Tuesdays.
So we'll work on our tackle technique, our tackle contest work.
All the Reds starting 15 will be on the try line defending, working in pairs. We're getting done for the second man and not releasing. Knock him to deck and take that space. Yes, that's a great hit. Well done, that's us. Great work.
On a Wednesday, the players will have a day off, usually a bit of massage and regeneration. My role basically encompasses a conduit between the business and the team. On a weekly basis, I'll meet with our other departments, so our commercial department, for example, and find out what sponsorship requirements we have each week and moving forward. I guess what we're looking at is we'll provide 15 players and coaches, the highest profile that we have available, subject to Wallaby selection.
A top-down focus on promoting the game of rugby in Queensland, coupled with sponsorship requirements, ensures that the life of a professional rugby player involves much more than only playing the game.
It's all about community, knowledge and sharing it from one generation to the next.
Today's unveiling of the jersey to be worn in this week's inaugural Indigenous round is part of a much wider involvement with the community.
Ewan's a big believer in community rugby, so the further down the grassroots we can go, the better, I guess.
Doing school visits like that all around Queensland, it's probably the best part of our job. Just to see the kids smile on their faces, it's as long as they're happy, I'm happy.
I reckon that sort of keeps them pretty eager and keen to continue their rugby path, no matter what it would be. The promotional side of things, I think, does wonders for rugby itself and also for the Reds and our organisation.
It's good to give back to the community and to see how passionate they are about the game and the team.
Just down here in Queen Street at the mall, handing out roses, just happened to run into my own mother, which was a very good surprise. The boys are really enjoying being here, and I think it's good for the ladies as well. Would you like a rose? We're doing all the promotional works and dinners and functions and travelling and getting the brand out there. I think it's great for the club.
These shorts are going to sell like hotcakes. What do I do with my hair? Stand in neutral.
In Super Rugby contracts, player appearances are non-negotiable. These players accept them, commit to them, and in some cases, they very much enjoy them. Thursday brings the last training session of the week before Friday night's important game, and the mood is comfortable.
We try and make the training environment very competitive but also fun at the same time, and I think you need that balance.
Listen guys, we're not going to go for very long, so I expect it to be short and sharp.
Usually on Thursday we're more specific in regards to, we'll try and reproduce what the other team's attacking shapes and patterns are in their set pieces. So we know in the ways in which they're scoring tries.
Speed and execution we call it, so we'll work at high intensity but then have a good rest, so it's more match-like.
Tatsy is the hard-nosed defensive coach. He loves the physical stuff and also just putting the structures in place. He's been massive this year, and we really pride ourselves on our defence now.
8, 9 little chores.
Jim's good. He's got a quirky sort of coaching style, but the boys all respect him.
It's a little bit less yap yap, more tap tap today.
He's got a really creative mind for rugby. He's good at sort of breaking down opposition defences and trying to figure out some places where we could attack them.
Make sure really clear. You can start tight again and then go. Oh, a little bit wider, then go. Remember, you're passing it back to me, so then that avoids any sort of errors. Score it! Well done, 2 hands. But just help each other out, critical. One more play and then you guys will swap in for the last one.
It'll be the little things in defence, attack, that'll get us through this game.
There's definitely times where you've got to enjoy what you do, and we do that well, but there's also times where you've got to switch on and get the job done and get what you want to get out of a training session, and I think that's very important for any professional athlete.
That's it, that's all you got to remember.
The weeks roll by quickly during season, and often it's a scramble to get as many able bodies as possible available for selection.
Ewan has obviously the final say, but he's quite good. He'll ask other coaches' opinions or the medical staff, so if someone is coming back from an injury or if they're coming through the bench, it's not always about who should be playing and who needs to play more, it's about who should be having a rest.
Today the media publish which players will take the field tomorrow night. There will be insight from several players, comment from skeptics and supporters, but ultimately the decision is made by those who know best, and it is rarely a simple one. The hours tick by on game day. Suncorp Stadium is being readied for the evening ahead. However, also underway, there are many other preparations.
Game day for me actually starts a couple of days out. It's not just on the game day, so there's a lot of preparation beforehand. The logistical side of it, I make sure that they're there on time, so organise all their timings for them. I'll set up the change room with all their gear beforehand, all their food, their drinks. I also have a couple of volunteers that do help me on the day, so they're invaluable. They help me get all of that done in that short time frame. There's a lot to do, a lot to get organised to make sure that everyone's got the equipment that they need on that day. So really my role is just making sure everything is there for the players that they need, so that all they have to do is think about their performance. Once we know what our team is going to be for the week, the other players in the squad are required to do some commercial commitments with our sponsors and local clubs. So on game day I need to organise their movements on that day as well, make sure that they're briefed on what's involved with each visit that they do around the ground, and just ensure that we're putting the best face forward for Queensland Rugby Union.
2, 3. The boys weren't smiling.
Game face. You need to have a good hard look at yourself in the mirror, mate. Literally.
Fixing up his tie.
This is exactly what we do most pre-games. It'll play. It'll play. Do your top button up. Oh, he's killing me. It's a tough crowd.
Evening sets in, and while the non-playing Reds continue with their sponsorship duties, the selected team begin their preparation. They will warm up, limber up, suit up, and mentally prepare for the contest ahead.
Guys, think about something, all right? Don't think about nothing. Think about the first part of the game. Think about your first involvement there. Need clarity when you get out there. Don't get confused, don't all run to the breakdown. Make sure you've got your defensive shape right. Make sure we got some impact in the contact part of the game. Get your minds around that. That's all we need to worry about at the moment. That's the only bit we know. where we're going to kick the ball off and how we're going to chase and the attitude we're going to take into that, how we're going to tackle. Okay? Let's go in the dressing room, get organised. Well done. All these people are coming out to watch the Reds play. They have a vision about what the Reds mean, right? The brand of the Reds, what they're about, and they expect to see it. It's not razzmatazz, throw the ball around willy-nilly. It's not that. It's character. Like it's defending the line against the Waratahs for 20 minutes, last year. That's the sort of stuff that people remember, right? And that doesn't happen. That's a collective will. And that's what you've got to focus on, right? You've got to bring that. You've got to find that.
Isolated in the end, and now the penalties. Mike Harris, second shot of the night. And it holds its line, it's a beauty. Over the black dot it goes. Genia, now Higginbotham charging onto it. Quick recycle, here's Quade Cooper. Cooper pulled down by Delaney, 4 metres out. Genia. Quick hands, try! James Slipper. Now it's Smith and Adam Thompson. And he's got him down. Try to the Highlanders.
We stay down there, we put pressure on, boys. But in terms of D, we don't concede tries like that, not on our line. Work harder, boys, be harder on ourselves. Where do you live it?
Can we get confirmation that message got through? Let's put your hand up.
Advantage being played for the Reds, not quite in front, but very close indeed for Mike Harris to have another shot. He doesn't miss them from there. Gee, they must be close. It's a try!
Boys, let's calm down. We get our facing line and get off the line. Simple!
Full-time siren sounds.
Numbers left and right. McIntosh.
He's isolated. The Reds have it, I think. Penalty to the Reds. My goodness, they have somehow got out of it. Full-time, and the Reds season is still alive.
Yeah, it was a sort of frustrating experience, but one that we'll move on with. I can guarantee you we'll be on song by Saturday next week.
Our goal on defence is something we pride ourselves on, and that's a lot of what we spoke about, just stepping it up and pushing them further down.
Every team's got damage, and that's just what you've got to work with. And we've got a lot of guys playing with courage out there, but that's what you need if you want to compete at the pointy end. It always gets down to the last round. There's always things going on in the last round, so you can look back and find reasons and things that you could have done better along the way, but in the end, you just got to be there in the last round and give yourself a chance.
Next time on Code Red, life with the St George Queensland Reds. We profile some of the team's biggest personalities. The plans for Ballymore's redevelopment take a step forward. And the curtain is drawn on the season. But before long, attention turns to 2013.